we'll just go ahead and get started. Coaches, first of all, thank you all for joining. Um, I'm really excited about this one. Coach Daniel is the assistant coach of the New Zealand national team. Got World Cup qualifiers coming up he's getting ready for. Also is the assistant coach of the Cleveland Charge in the NBA G League, and was even up in the playoffs with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Was recently also, I know, a head coach in New Zealand, as well as many other stops. Just a guy that shares great content, right? And he's willing to share for us just a great learning experience. So I know we've got kind of a mixed bag of coaches watching this, some national team coaches, some pro coaches, some youth coaches, some players that want to become coaches. So I think everybody will hopefully be able to take something from this. This is what we do with Pro Coaches Academy. About every 6 weeks or so, we try to do an online coaching clinic, trying to get different topics. And this one is going to be principles of pick and roll offense, ball screen offense. So without further ado, Coach, I will let you take it away. And coaches, if you have any questions, this is only going to go somewhere around 30 minutes, so you can feel free to type your questions in the chat box. If I see them, I'll stop Coach. Otherwise, at the end, we'll try to have a few extra minutes for some questions. But Coach Daniel, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's a honor to be asked, eager to share. I think there's a shared love of the game. Being in the coach's profession, everyone's just a lifelong learner, and that exchange has enriched me many times. So grateful to have the opportunity to deepen my understanding by teaching it rather than just watching. Those who teach learn twice. So we'll jump right into it. Obviously, we'll probably start in a place that feels a little bit elementary, but within the really simple stuff, there's nuance that I think I had a lot of success teaching, especially screeners, but just the interaction between ball handler and screener. There's some really simple things that you can build on that can yield advantage. When we talk about coverage solutions and pick and roll, I think largely I'll focus on the fundamentals of the two-player interaction and not necessarily what you do in manipulating space or tactically attacking a specific coverage from behind the ball screen. It's not really plays. It's again rooted in principle, and that will be specific to unders, which I think everybody is always figuring out, okay, how do we combat the on-ball defender going under a screen because that neutralizes the advantage? How can we provoke more rotation by passive coverages, which almost every team has a version of, and that can be a drop, that can be a weak or a strong, where you're dictating the direction, but you're trying to keep the ball screen 2-on-2, or ice if you're keeping it out of the middle, also supposed to be more or less a 2-on-2 coverage. How we can negate those to generate rotation and generate advantage. So I'll just jump right into it. And we're just gonna look at, there are just so many. I'm obsessed with rejecting ball screens. That's putting it very lightly. I think there's probably 200 clips somewhere on this laptop of all different varieties of reject, because that is the genesis of advantage in a ball screen. The vast majority of coverages, and we'll talk about the ones that don't send it to the screen, but everything else, good, well-designed pick and roll defense is about forcing the ball towards the screener's defender and then deciding how aggressive you're going to be. So in principle, when you reject a screen, you beat two defenders, and that should create a 4-on-3 situation immediately. And we talk about the variety of reject situations. The transition pick and roll situation, which I think more and more teams are leaning into, flow, whatever, Euro motion, whatever you want to call it, there's some semblance of, when the defense isn't set, we want to be attacking. And usually the outside of an immediate drive, the most common transition interaction is a pick and roll. So when you're coming down the floor, defenders have a really hard time when the ball has speed about getting connected to the body. And when the defender is off the body, this on a ball handler's eyes should be lighting up. This is that I can manipulate space. I can see that that defender opens his hips to take a step over the screen, but he's not in my space. That means I can attack the opposite foot, attack the body, and generate fouls, as you see here. That's true in a filled corner, and it should be even more true in empty corner situations. When you come down the floor and we see space behind the ball screen when the corner's empty, we should be obsessed with the idea of attacking this space, and so we want to give simple messages to our players. Like we're a heavy transition flow pick and roll team with the New Zealand national team. I don't necessarily want to play any empty corner pick and roll situations. I want to be in a lot of them, but I essentially don't want us to ever use the screen. I want us to be obsessed with we're going to use the language of race to the baseline and force a convergence of the defense just from the fact that we're getting the ball to the baseline not neutral early, and probably a low man will come in and the five will drop and we'll have the corner filled and think about cutting the 45, and we'll just have advantage immediately without even playing the pick and roll. The screen is a distraction. It's smoke and mirrors, and we don't really have the intent to use it until we absolutely have to. And I mean, we can talk about, we'll see in another clip, every failed reject is the best setup. And that will be a premise we talk about a little bit later. But you're coming down in an empty corner situation at any tempo, you're thinking, if there's any space, I want to attack it. Some of these are fast, some of these are slow. There's a little bit of hang. You're you're looking, eyes are eyeing up the screen, but you're just waiting for that defender to turn his head. Unless he can get connected to the body, which we see, this space is death. This space is optionality for the ball handler. Good on-ball defenses that are forcing to the screen are getting foot to foot, forearm to hip, and forcing towards the screen. There is no option. And we tell the flip side, our on-ball defenders, I'd rather you be behind than you get hit. So in the premise of getting behind, I have to get to the side of the body and then completely navigate the screen. Anytime there's space here, our first, second, and third priority is to reject. Because when you reject, if we look over here again, we not only beat our primary defender, this guy's out of position. He might pull in. If he doesn't, I get a layup. If he does, we're skipping it and we're in rotation. So this obsession, and I don't think it's an overstatement. The best pick and roll players in the world, without exception, are obsessed with rejecting the ball screen because they know this is immediate advantage. And I've worked with a number of coaches that say, of course you want to reject, but there's one thing for it to be a point of emphasis and another for it to be an obsession. And I think in my experience working with pick and roll players, they all underestimate the frequency with which they should be trying to reject. And we'll build on that argument as we look into all the different varieties of situations where rejecting yields gold, let's say. Everything breaks open. Elijah Bryant and I'm trying to remember the next clip. It'll also be they're both stealing from Sergio Rodriguez, nicknamed Chacho. He was a longtime NBA player and he played in Madrid. I believe he won the EuroLeague. He was a huge fan of this reject. He's staring down the screen, then boom, it's a quick split of the feet, and he's drawing fouls. We saw it this year from the ACB. He's an inspiration to us all. But the different tempos with which you reject, I really don't care how you do it. This is basically one bad screen, but it forces that defender close to the body without actually being physical, and now they're at your disposal. This is a really good example of what we're talking about. A little bit of you're playing in two minds. If you can reject the guy, take it 10 times out of 10. But if it's a half decent defender, 7 out of every 10 reject attempts, he's going to make enough contact to stop your momentum. So you make one early attempt to reject. Well, this is Rokas Jokubaitis. Before he came here, he was coached by Šarūnas Jasikevičius in the Žalgiris and the Fenerbahce days. And it's this obsession with trying to get further down the floor. So he's trying to race him to the baseline. When he bumps him off, this is the world's best setup. If this was a better screener, he was better educated, he'd be right here waiting to see, did he beat him to the baseline and he should dive with him? Or is this a world-class setup that gets you way below the free throw line? And should I be ready to screen right now and eat up all this space in the middle? They're a little bit miscommunicated, but he's going to sprint into the screen now and he's still going to try to reject. And that reject yields a foul. So it's not one attempt, it's two. And those are some I think, provocative examples of why, especially in transition pick and roll situations where defenders are already inherently off the body, you want to be coaching your players to be obsessed with trying to attack away from the screen. Before I move to a different topic, any questions?
Think you're good to keep going, coach.
Awesome. It's probably one of my favorite situations to talk about. And for all the teams that, as if you look a little bit in recent basketball history, I think the success of first Thomas Isolo in, I'd say, Krausheim, then Bonn, then Paris. Paris's success in iterating on that concept with Splitter and Tabellini. Valencia's success emulating that model. Like flow transition pick and roll situations are growing in popularity, and understanding kind of what we're trying to get out of the second side. You get a lot of pass follow or chase action that we talk about. And in all of these situations, you have the exact same obsession, but these situations, and this is Valencia from last year in Euro Cup, these situations are where your secondary, your mostly shot heavy two guards and your spot up wing players, they get a little chance to play pick and roll because the setup for the screen is already made for them. That means I earned a catch somewhere on the floor that I want to be playing, and the ball was passed to me. I don't need to dribble into the setup as you see with these transition pick and roll players. That's probably the highest tier of pick and roll player, that he can self-create prior to the use of the screen. For those guys, your role players that you want to get a little taste of pick and roll, boom. There's most important thing we say is earn a catch. A lot of times this defender will be hugged up on him because they know exactly what's happening. So it's about, rather than running up to receive what becomes a handoff, you push this guy in and you try to pop back. He's catching in absolutely the perfect position because there's room to attack in both directions. Now, the screen is a decoy. As the screen approaches, this guy's ripping away, and this is what we call the second side reject. There are a few teams in the world that do it better than them, but the intention is I don't really want to use the screen. And that's the same thing we just talked about in transition pick and roll, but you're playing this from a static position. You catch, you wait a half a beat, defender turns his head, hips, whatever it is, you're ripping through hands. The physical defenders would probably have a hand on the hip. This is a great opportunity to draw fouls, and this is advantage. And this is all the advantage we ever want to be playing for. So if you can have advantage without using the screen, why would you? Because the disconnect with building into using the pick and roll is that you then have to teach the players how to read what the coverage is. And obviously you'll never skip this step, but the first phase to trying to give a guy a chance to play pick and roll and make him more effective is getting him obsessed with rejecting. Because when he fails to reject, he probably gets this guy off the body. And then we can talk a little bit more about the slips that come out of this in a little bit. But again, we're seeing all sorts of examples. Boom, boom. The chase is not specific to the side pick and roll. You're going to see some middle of the floor examples, but this shape of basketball, and there's about creativity, figure out how to get it done, but reject that ball screen. You see pass follow, boom. It doesn't necessarily have to be on what we call the second side. These can happen in the middle of the floor, but with the modern obsession, there's a different tempo. The modern obsession with flow pick and roll, this is a situation you're going to see a lot. But again, I'm static ball handler waiting for a screen. Screen's approaching, and I'm ripping away. What he's looking for is this. If everybody can see my arrow. I don't know. Is my cursor visible?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay. Uh,
Turning his
he's
head.
he's turned his head, but there's no arm on his hip. There's no foot to foot. There's nothing that's forcing this player to use this screen. So as soon as the opportunity presents itself, he's going to rip away. And these are and ones, fouls. So you have your transition pick and roll. These are live ball handler with speed situations. You have your chase pick and roll rejects, and these are live dribble. I haven't dribbled yet. I can rip through hands. I can jab and get this defender off of me, or I can just rip through and try to reject. And we build into when you're trying to think about, okay, I want to play pick and roll offense. If I could build a roster from scratch, the first thing I do, obviously, I get a world-class pick and roll player. But these guys aren't growing on trees, So it's like, okay, I don't have great pick and roll players. How can I play pick and roll? And the first thing I'd say is chase situations where you're getting a big to pass and follow. You don't have to worry about the setup. You just have to figure out how to catch it where you want to catch it. And then I would say play through what we call get situations. And it's basically just an inverted chase. If the chase is big passes to guard and then guard waits for the screen to come, get is guard passes to big and then pursues that ball for a handoff. And you'd say handoffs are not pick and rolls. And I agree. I absolutely hate handoffs, but they can be weaponized. And what I mean by that is they provoke defenders to get disconnected off the body and make decisions around will they go over or under this situation. This isn't exactly the situation I'm talking about. He's just kind of quick from one action to the next. And you see that he has one of the best defenders in EuroLeague chasing his tail. And when he does that, he rips through hands, rips away from the screen, but he's playing it off the catch. This is a much better example. And this is probably familiar to a lot of people, a little bit of Spanoulis action. And that's just catch at the top of the key. He's, a master of using screens. You see Guduric, EuroLeague champion, played a little bit in the Memphis Grizzlies. He's stopping early, controlling this guy's body, and then he's sprinting into this handoff. And now we have the moment of decision, and this is where there's super controllable reads that could empower your guards to be, who aren't ball handling wizards, to be really effective pick and roll players. Strazel is going to make the choice to go under. That the tax of going under this handoff, which is the reasonable decision. If he goes over this, right, the Guduric just turns the corner. There's nobody in front of him. And now he's downhill off of a pick and roll, but it's really just a handoff. He goes under, everybody can see this gap. He's now off the body. He has a decision to make on this action, which is just the rescreen. Handoff, under, defend that this guy who's Nico Melli is going to turn around and set a screen. He's not on the hip. He's trying to beat him into this space. So naturally, he's ripping through. He's drawing fouls. I personally, I didn't win the argument, but I did plant the idea that anytime your team is in the bonus, the opposition is over the limit, I think this situation, pass, follow, play the get, wait for them to go under, and on a rescreen, just try to rip away through people's hands. I think that's the fastest way to get yourself to the free throw line. So I'm going to be putting that in my play package as just ideas for everybody. But we're just seeing a lot of different examples. This is a little bit of a different order. But again, static ball handler situation after a pass and follow, one more screen. If you're not going to get to the hip, I'm going to go through hands and I'm going to rip away. Reject, advantage, and this is all we want. Make or miss, this is the process we're looking for. Boom, pass, follow, under, reject. Think about, there's just the layers of separation in this. You as a team, okay, so I don't want to run the ball up the floor, stop and play a get. You can do the same thing in transition. A big who rim runs and then just sprints back to the three-point line, pass it, go under. And you see, that's not even a clean under. There's a little bit of friction. He's not square in front of him. And because he's chasing, he's not under control. It's really hard for him to get to the hip, to navigate over this rescreen. And all of this separation just gives good players options. I can use it. I can rip away from it. I rip away from it. I get to the rim. I get an N1. This is probably the best example of the full picture. And what I mean by the full picture is when you're playing against half decent defense, it won't just break open every time. But this looks a little bit like the Spanoulis that we talked about before. Guards coming from underneath. 5 is static at the top of the key. They have some poor decisions and then they fixed it. This defender goes underneath. He took off without reading, and then he comes back to fix it. And while he's waiting, you see, this is almost good defense, but this is better offense. He's almost foot to foot. He's almost forearm on hip, but he said, whoa, you don't touch me. I ripped through hands, and that makes him a little bit indecisive. Now he's in recovery. And this, if we stop the frame right here, would you want a half decent ball handler playing pick and roll like this? Defender's way off the body, set up on the 3-point line. He's easy to hit. This will yield advantage for anybody who's half decent. They force a switch, they read from there. But it's all about the process prior to the screen, this setup. Under, rescreen, reject, attack. I it's stole one clip from our playoff matchups, uh, that the same idea is true in off-ball screening. You know, you say, okay, I've got a good ball handler, but my best player is a shooting guard. I don't necessarily want him playing a ton of pick and roll. He's probably not going to initiate the offense, but he's really good off of a pin down. Well, okay, we go to the pin. The moment they make the choice to gap, we would instruct our shooters, obviously, to stop to basically directly behind the screen. But boom, there's an opportunity to catch, five comes, rescreen. This looks exactly the same like the get, pass and follow. And if he's not going to get to the hip, I'm going to rip away, reject, and advantage, right? So we clearly at the Cavs, we have some work to do on our defensive fundamentals. Um, Again, before I transition away, any questions,
I got a question for you, Coach. Um,
please?
just you personally, with your preferences, if you're in the pass and follow, do you prefer within your offense kind of random pass and follow with the guards to have that freedom to also maybe pass and follow to an inverted screen or a ghost screen, or do you prefer to kind of have your bigs as your screeners? Just self preference, I guess.
Uh, it's unless you're Besic or Coach K, it's like you're not hand picking players that fit exactly how you want to play. Everybody else in the world's job is to optimize their talent. So if I had, for whatever reason, a really skilled ball handling big, of course, optionality, sprinkle in an inverted. You don't ever want to show the defense the same option, just like you as a defender, you don't want to show the offense the same solution or the same coverage every time. It becomes predictable. Um, but I'll always gravitate towards s simple, and it's okay if it's predictable. A little bit of a Doc Riversism, like they can know what we're gonna do, but they don't control when we do it and how well. So it's like I think if you take away anything from this conversation, it's the idea that there are really robust and enduring principles to what we just talked about. They will always be true under certain conditions. So it's like if we can just get to that and read, is he on the body? Is he off the body? Did they go over or under? I can rip through hands or I can use it. You should have advantage if you play it right. It's like conditional logic, and you can basically just always be right. This is why coaches love teaching pick and roll, because if we read the cover right, we have the answers to the test.
Right.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another question is why do you say you hate handoffs?
Because handoffs are easy unders, and if you're not okay, I enjoy actions that yield advantage. Obvious statement. Especially in guard to guard situations, you're either going to switch or you're going to go under that handoff. If they go under a guard to guard handoff, for example, will you rescreen and try to weaponize that switch? You could. Might have a wing who could rescreen and then screen flat and roll. Like the more time I spend evaluating different actions and figuring out how to get advantage, and the better I am at teaching it, the more open I'm be to adding it to my offense. It's just like the the pick and roll is much more difficult to defend than the handoff. This is just a fact.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's
Straightforward enough.
there's that's why 8 options exist for pick and roll defense, and basically 3 do for handoffs. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Right.
a much more complicated action to defend.
Okay, you have another question in the chat. Outside of emphasizing the reject verbally in practices or through film, what environments do you create in a training setting to work on rejects and get rejects?
Great question. Um, Players in any setting, if they're genuine competitors, which you'd hope are most of your players, want to win games. Obvious statement. They play to win. If you're going to play games in practice, they're going to play to win. So if you want to incentivize a behavior, score it. So we'd get +1 for a reject basically all season. If I needed more, it would get 2 points. If I needed more, it would get 3 points. At a certain point, I was creating more tension in practice. I'd say if you allow a reject, +1 for the offense, -1 for the defense. It's like that's two-way teaching that comes out of just constraining or adding scoring to any of your games. But this is the fastest way you're going to change behavior. Connect it to the fact that it helps you win the game. That's all the players care about.
Okay, and then one more in the chat. Could you just kind of re-clarify, I guess, the difference between chase and get, and who gets the ball first in each setting?
Absolutely. Chase pick and roll, we're thinking, and it doesn't necessarily have to be big to guard. The concept of chase, I could rename it pass follow. I'm passing to the ball handler, and I, who just passed it, am sprinting in to become the screener. The ball handler is static, and the screener is moving. In a get, the passer, uh, the receiver is static, and the passer is chasing it to then become the pick and roll player, if that makes sense. Usually, in conventional basketball right now, big is passing to guard in the pass follow or chase, and guard is passing to big in the get.
Got it. Thank you,
Hopefully
Coach.
that's
You can
clear.
keep going then. Perfect.
Awesome. I'm glad to have the dialogue. We're getting honestly to the most important part, the real value of this, and where, to be completely frank, I've distinguished myself in pick and roll teaching is right here. So I'm excited to share that what you're looking for is a partnership. There's a two-way connection here. When you're teaching your ball handlers to be obsessed with rejecting, and you're essentially teaching your screeners to read hips. That's it. Those are your two cornerstones. So how everything fits together is, we saw this already a little bit in the Maccabi Tel Aviv clip, but he's off the body. He's got his hips open a little bit, but he's trying to make sure he doesn't get rejected. So boom, because he's making sure he doesn't get rejected, but there's space between him and the ball. When the ball does attack, some momentum, there's a little bit of a bump off. And now we get into this situation where as the screen comes in, Finland is in an aggressive coverage, but because he's off the body, should he stay to screen somebody who's disconnected from the ball? Of course not. The whole point of the screen is to give the ball handler separation from his defender. If the ball handler has earned separation from his defender without the screen, then the screen doesn't need to be there. He should just leave. And that creates a slip. This creates some miscommunication because he doesn't know if he should get back. It looks like a switch, and that separation yields advantage. It's this partnership between the setup and the screen. So, sorry, partner, just getting your guys' faces out of the way. He sees screen coming. He rips away to set up. That gets this guy off the body. Once this guy's off the body, I would grade this screener poorly, and we'll see why in a little bit. He's going to stay to hit, and he gives him advantage there in the deep drop. This is an uncontested mid-range. It is what it is. That's your preference as a coach on shot profile, but that is effective use of pick and roll. These are static setups, right? This is not, I'm coming down the floor with any speed. This is your best ball handler. You're going to give him this creative freedom that when the play slows down, when you need one more action, he's going to go from a neutral position and figure out how to create advantage in the ball screen. Usually, this is Nigel Williams-Goss. This is like a high level pick and roll player, subpar athlete. His craft, creativity, something most guards should study. He rips through hands. You see Devin Hall jump. He's way disconnected. Because he's off the body, he's reading slip. Because they do a really good job of being physical and not allowing the slip, he stays to make some contact. And now we have separation. We have indecision from the screen defender, and we're at the rim. Rip away, get the defender disconnected. Separation into the screen. Little bit of contact, roller behind. I know we said we'd mostly talk about passive coverages, so that one, he's one step above. But the same can be true on against the drop. We have setup. Whoop. That's a rescreen reject. So probably his clip is a little bit out of place, but the premise is he uses this dribble to set up this screen, and when he gets off the body and races to try to recover and get over, again, he's vulnerable to rejecting. So the best pick and roll players, that was Sylvan Francisco. Oswald just overpaid him by about 3 million to be their pick and roll player. Be obsessed with rejecting. Just another friendly reminder. You're going to see this pattern over and over again from the best ball handlers in the world. And some of them are not. In the NBA, the pick and roll players are so effective leveraging their athleticism that they may not necessarily be in tune with the nuances. You have some much slower, less athletic, less dynamic European ball handlers that are masters of this. Here comes the screen. Here comes my reject setup. That disconnects this defender. And nobody in the world would play pick and roll defense like this. I mean, move this guy out of the frame because right now they're just basically in a show and a plug. But when he recovers, he's disconnected. That's advantage, and they're at the rim. So this is probably the best example, and we'll build on this and what we're talking about. Here's Justin Robinson, just a simple in and out. This defender right now is neutral. Right now he's not neutral. Because he is not square in front of the ball, this screener is reading slip. I do not have any responsibility to screen because the defender is no longer between the rim and the ball. And when he slips, that compromises their coverage, and that's advantage. And they didn't have to actually play the screen. There's advantage without ever making contact. And that's pretty counterintuitive to what most people think about when playing against drop. They say, okay, drop defense, have to make contact. I really don't think that's true if this connection is strong. For example, these last two clips, and then we'll build on this, especially when we talk about unders. Here's Simon Bergender. They're coming down in transition. What does this screener see from this defender? Once his hips are no longer square, he's leaving. He's not, especially when he is not connected to the ball. Once he opens his hips, we see his now hips parallel to the sideline. He's trying to navigate over. The NBA phrase here is reroute and get out. Why is that important? Because in a drop coverage, if this screener stays to hit this on-ball defender, what advantage does this ball handler have against the drop defender? A one-on-one. The screener is still on the body of the on-ball defender, and this guard is playing one-on-one inside the paint against this drop defender, and that's why all you get really is mid-range jump shots because the big is dropping back. What you want is this, which is 2 against 1 because he is not in front of or even on the side of the ball handler, and this is advantage. That's what you're looking for. Any questions there? That's really the core foundation of everything you're going to do, setting up and playing towards pick and roll. And now we're in a little bit of coverage solutions.
Coach, if the other team is not necessarily trying to send the ball handler into the screen, let's say they're icing the screen, are you still?
That's the last segment.
Okay, my bad.
all good, all good, all good. Ready to roll?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. I think everybody's trying to figure out, especially the lower levels where under should be your first, second, and third priority. You don't face a ton of ball handlers that can shoot off the dribble. You're not worried about losing that way. Trying to figure out, okay, how can I combat the unders? And the first one is what we just saw. That you are teaching your screeners to read hips and only read hips. Square or not square? Obviously, right now, not square. Disconnected. Ball has momentum. That's an important factor. The ball has some speed. He should not screen. Why? His hips are open with the intention to go under this screen. What obstructs his path is slipping. Everybody hopefully can see that Clark is about to try to run over here, but that path is obstructed by this slip to the rim. And that creates this runway and advantage. Slipping is a primary tool against unders. Again, here's Jantunen, coming to screen. He sees hips open with a clear intent to navigate under, and he does not allow this. And that obstructs his path and creates a runway to the basket or a decision to shoot. Again, these are good freeze frames. He's obviously planting this foot with the intention to navigate under this screen. Once he reads hips are open, there's no way I'm letting you do that. For everybody who's going to ask, is this an illegal screen? As long as this screener beats him to this spot, they are running side by side. This is not an illegal screen and it hasn't been called one. If he gets a foot under this guy and then he takes off and bulldozes him, yes, these are illegal screens. This is smoke and mirrors. You're off the body, your hips are open. I don't need to screen. I'm giving my ball handler, especially in transition situations, a runway. But we'll see that that's still true in the half court setting as well. And that kills your under. This guy's staring down an open shot. That does not look like effective coverage. Half court. This is Shangun and Larkin. Here's Isaac Bonga, elite screener, elite screen defender. And as soon as he opens up with the intention to go underneath, you see Shangun's taking off. Hips open. This is advantage. He's dead. Slips are my primary tool to kill unders. I mean, this clip doesn't end with anything in particular, but it's a really good example. Again, we're face to face. I'm taking off. My job is to beat you to this spot. You're not on the body. And he should have, when we talk about slips with our ball handlers, we say, if your screener slips, you must drive it because he's creating a runway for you. You see this obstacle right here. This is your space to attack. You cannot be passive in these situations. Otherwise, you've wasted an interaction. I mean, watching last year's Eurobasket, and it makes perfect sense now, how Valanciunas in a modern NBA has survived so long. Besides being an elite offensive rebounder, he's just a brilliant, brilliant screener. It's a great guy for bigs to study because he's not going to roll behind and dunk on anybody. He is so attuned to defenders' hips and creating advantage there. He's brilliant in this regard. So you see, what does he see? As soon as he sees open, he's planting this foot and he's taking off. And that kills your path to the under, and there's your advantage. No screen was played. That's the bookend of our slips to kill unders concept. Your next tool against the under, obviously, is your angles and the decision to race the under. If they're obviously squeezing to take this under, and his goal is supposed to be to meet him over here and keep this contained 2-on-2, accelerating every once in a while to challenge the under is not a bad thing. It just has to be on purpose. Guards who blindly take off and run into the under because they didn't know the defender went under, that's what we want to avoid. But I think this is actually a really good example of what we talk about sometimes with our guards on unders. Before you can really dive into the idea of using rescreens, you need your guards to have the intention to race first. So here's the screen. He's trying to race him. What's the advantage of that? The rescreen is inside the three-point line. If you just dance behind this screen right here and turn around and rescreen, he can probably just get another under with no tax. So you want to race under control. And now that the rescreen is set up lower, you better go over or there's a huge tax for going under. It's a wide open shot. But these situations, pick and rolls this deep, 9 times out of 10, provoke switches. And that's exactly what happens. And then they pass around the advantage. There's a mismatch. There's overhelp. Here's Luka. Now you have an X out. You have a closeout. See ya, Luka. But that's a trickle-down effect of playing that first pick and roll correctly. We get into, you don't want to stay too long on the idea of racing because it's a little bit stubborn play rather than punishing the tax of taking unders. And the tax of unders is everything associated with rescreens, because on the rescreen, you're off the body. And we just saw 20 minutes of why being off the body can be a really bad thing. You're vulnerable to rejects. You're vulnerable to slips. Good pick and roll defense, 9 times out of 10, starts with being on-ball defender into the hip. So here's under. We see this distance. Rescreen. He's navigating over, but he's not on the body. And this is your 2 against 1 because he is behind. So your number one, probably, outside of in transition using slips, your number one concept for unders is just to rescreen, but rescreen with the intent and the understanding that the defender should be off the body. And that has a world of advantage in it if you're reading correctly. A little get game under. Now on the rescreen, he's off the body. We're attacking space. There's a small clip as an example of how you'd marry using these tools with reshaping the floor, but not a super important clip. This is a really cool angle in talking about and a good visual for us about what it means to be off the body. They miscommunicate, so he's already pretty late. But on this under and on this rescreen, we see the distance between ball handler and on-ball defender. And I would, if I was showing this film in this clip in class, I would with the team, I would pause it right here and ask everybody, should he screen? And hopefully by now everybody knows the answer is no. With this distance, you have much more advantage slipping right now, where you'd have lob and this drive rather than him staying to hit. Because again, we see right now your advantage is 1-on-1 with this big rather than 2-on-1 or 4-on-3 with him at the rim. Just poor miscommunication, but the advantage wasn't as big as it should have been. Under. Rescreen, super disconnected. He's disconnected. He knows he's going over. Giannis basically does the reroute rather than commit to hitting him. Everybody sees that. This is supposed to be a drop. This is Giannis behind that roller because the roller's defender needs to stop the ball because this guy's behind. And he's behind because he went under. Under. Rescreen. Talk a little bit now about marrying those ideas on a... Ooh, not yet. That was a little preview of the Gortat, which is one of our solutions to passive coverage. This is what Valanciunas putting everything together, right? I said he's an elite screener. Under equals rescreen. Rescreen plus defender, hips open, off the body, hit or slip. Obviously, everybody knows by now the answer is slip. You see him wait. He times this. He takes one little step up to force him to go up the floor, and then he's behind. And now we're in numbers. Campazzo has seen a whole career of unders. He absolutely understands the cadence of as soon as you commit to one side, I'm going the other way. That rescreen, all this separation. So fundamental principle of playing against unders, weaponize the rescreen. On the rescreen, all this distance. Can you get him to go over on the rescreen? He's dead. This is advantage. And now he should be a little further back for the sake of our discussion. But anytime he has to take a step up to stop this guy, that's a low man pulling in. These are the next layer of reads you'd be teaching your guards. See the second line of defense. Option 2, or option 4, I should say, for attacking unders, we want to talk about is just flat screens. With guards that you want to take unders on, a lot of time you're seeing lower pickup points, but anytime they pick up high enough, go and set a flat screen, your screening angle, so that there is no option to go under. And on that flat screen, these downhill drivers can do exactly that. They can get downhill. Valencia did this all year. They bring two screens together. This is a little more tactical than we've been talking about, not necessarily about plays. This is a little bit of a play. You set two flat screens, so there's no under option in either direction. And then you just go. Gets, especially flat ones, you pass the ball up the floor. This basically is like a flat screen, but you get the foot race. You don't have to worry about dribbling. And now we're downhill. Things that release a little bit of the under pressure. And combine two concepts here. Under, rescreen. Rescreen, he's separated. I think this, and you guys could teach this either from live dribble or off the get. I'm convinced this is the absolute best time to Gortat because you have this guy completely under control, separated. You cut him off. He screens his own, and we're at the rim or pulling in help and creating huge advantage when it's supposed to be 2-on-2 in a drop. Again, under, off this second screen, sorry, under, rescreen. He's way behind. Eyes should light up, hostage opportunity, Gortat opportunity. And he should have Gortatted and we get to the rim. But another defender has to come into the equation. And the same can be true in any of these drag, transition, pick and roll situations. A lot of times you're looking at pick and roll coverages and you're thinking, do I want to punish this coverage or do I want to prevent them from using it? An example of that, especially aggressive coverage, is against a hard show. I can make 2 quick passes and play that closeout. That's punishing the coverage. Or I can prevent it with a ram screen or a flip, something that doesn't let them be aggressive. I think Gortat is the only drop prevent coverage. Something that stops a team from executing a drop. This defender can no longer stay between the ball handler and the basket because he's wiping him out, and that gives those guards a chance to get to the rim. I want to be mindful of time and any questions before we get to this last segment. Just think about we only got about 10 clips left.
Yeah, you're good to keep going, Coach.
Sweet. Let's roll through right to the end. Drop coverage. Outside of the screening principles we've been talking about, this is a little tactical. The idea of a double drag, and it's not just to have 2 screens in a row. The principle is connected to the setup that we talked about before. If you can get contact on this first screen and they don't switch, what does he see? He sees his defender off the body, and his cue is to slip. So double drag, the idea of hit and slip, is pretty fundamental as a drop coverage solution. And that pulls in help, and now you have throwbacks and you have advantage. See it again. Double drag. 1, 2. He sees contact, and for some reason, at this distance up the floor, he sees an over. It's just a really good screening angle. You see he's coming underneath. This is your tax for a high pickup point. How do you navigate this screen? So he hits and forces over. There's no reason for him to stay. So he slips, and ta-da. Again, even further up the floor, hit. This is his defender. Is he going to stay to screen? Absolutely not. And now we're downhill at the rim. So pairing screens as a drop solution, hit and slip. We see them, you talking about, Matt, directional screen pick and roll coverages now, or we talk about ice, we talk about strong and weak. They're not forcing to the screen, they're forcing away from the screen. The first thing I'd say, and then hopefully we've learned something by now from the beginning of this conversation, he's super vulnerable to being rejected. The criteria for a reject is going away from where they want you to go. They don't want him to use the screen, so his equivalent of a reject would be ripping this way because, again, he's not on the hip. Your other tax, as soon as he improves his position, he's reading hips open or hips closed. If his hips are open, he should go and he should dive. We call that, we talk about drive and dive as a very common directional coverage solution. He should eat up this space and he should try to get behind. When he does that, you can marry the two, and now we see a Gortat. I'm mindful of the fact that Nadir Hifi is one of the best ball handlers in Europe, and it's not that easy. But another idea, and now we're just seeing the principles replay themselves just in different spacings and different shapes. He is forcing away from the screen. He said, I'm not going to let you use it. He's forcing him to his left hand. So he's going to attack, force him to change his position, and now he's under the screen, and this is the equivalent of a setup. So what you're going to see, this was one example. The next one will be clearer. You're playing against ice, and you want to keep the ball in this guy's hands. You want to have him play in better space. You want to see if you can get him to the middle without necessarily snaking because the snake is lower and it's tighter. Set this first screen high and just attack. When he attacks, what does this guy do? Well, shit, he starts to sprint and begin his recovery, and that gets him below the level of the screen. He doesn't look like he's in ice anymore. And now he gets hit and he gets middle, and now you marry two concepts. We talk about hit, slip, and advantage. So like to just bundle directional coverage solutions, drive and dive, which we'll close with again, uh, setup. First thing is try to reject the down. It will always be true. Ice, weak, strong, whatever directional coverage. Don't let them dictate where you go. And if you have to, fake like you're using it, which we just saw, and you can get to the middle. But this is the number one principle. He's not square. Once he's not square on the ball, he should attack. The order of this is important. It's not dive and then drive, it's drive and then dive because you want to give the ball handler the option to try to use the screen. If he chooses to attack this space because it's a good ice defender, then he should dive with him and you have a 2-on-1. Hips open, get behind, play your dynamic 1-on-1, play in the pocket. If they come in, you help. Valencia was exceptional at this in all sections of the floor, whether you're doing this in the middle, you were doing this on the side. The big new, their timing was a little different. They weren't really waiting for the ball handler because they are clearly very well trained. As soon as that on-ball defender is not square, they were going. You'll see 3 examples here. Square, gone, nail tag, close out. The advantage isn't always, 1-to-1, but it's a trickle-down effect. A few really good examples to finish. Middle of the floor, weak, dive at the rim. Offensive rebound from putting it up high, the bigs trying to block it. Again, trickle-down effect. This best example right here. Weak, take off. I mean, just look at this picture. As soon as he jumps, their collective reaction jumps out. He knows he's attacking. He's already planting his foot to take off. Advantage. And that's all she wrote.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach. Coaches, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask right now, or you can type it in the group chat. But I just took a notebook full of notes, so I've enjoyed that. We'll give them about 30 seconds. Somebody put
Let's
in
go.
the
Thank you,
chat.
Coach.
Oh, somebody put in the chat,
No,
rejecting Spain action is
I'm not answering any of Virgil's questions. Um, no, that's an old friend. So Virg. Spain specifically, I mean, it probably shouldn't matter. Uh, you're playing Spain for different reasons. I think I'm choosing to play Spain based on the coverage I'm playing against. It's probably a tool I prefer against hard hedge, just because you're making 2 single tags. It's really uncomfortable to play against. Um, but Virgil probably saying for the players to try to reject anyway because you want the setup. The smart pick and roll player like you knows even if I'm trying to reject, sometimes I'm just like, I want to do it so I can get this guy off my body. It's a setup, but every failed reject is a setup.
I feel you. You gotta keep you on your toes, Daniel.
My guy.
somebody asked, can these concepts work against zones? How will the setups be?
So I mean, you can always choose to ball screen a zone. Most zones are instructing, well, I wouldn't say generalized, like there's zones that choose to force it down, ice it. Any ball screens going to the middle, like 2-3. But once you ice, you're in man-to-man principle. So I personally, when I'm playing like coaching zone defense and playing pick and roll, I'm trying to like switch it guard to guard or keep some zone principles. Otherwise I'm just in drop. But I was saying that they're trying to send it guard to guard, but also steal unders. So the principles of this still hold true in terms of screening angles and getting the on-ball defender a little bit disconnected. There's still a tax to pay for not being into the body when a player is playing pick and roll. There's a freedom of decision making. There's time to think. There's time to scan. So it's always going to be important. It's probably going to be less important in terms of hit and slip because everybody's in the paint. It's not like you won't get the same numerical advantage. The principles are a little bit different, man versus zone. But it's still effective screening that you're working on, if that answers the question.
Great. Thank you, Coach. I think we will call that a day. Um, where should coaches follow you if they want to see any more of your content? Is LinkedIn the place?
I post everything on LinkedIn and Twitter. I can share with you my Twitter handle, DSOKO 5244, DSOKO 5244. It was on Instagram and I just got shut down for apparently using EuroLeague content. So
Oh,
to hell with them.
interesting.
Um,
Okay. I've seen you ask for notes. Coaches, this has been recorded, so I will just share this on YouTube. So if you need to watch it again to review anything, you'll be able to see it on there. But again, Coach, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. That was very insightful. And thanks again.
my pleasure.